All right, good morning, everyone. Call this meeting to order Tuesday, August 19th, 9 a.m. If I could get you to stand for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please pray with me if you'd like to. Dear Lord, we come before you this morning with gratitude for the privilege of serving the people of St. Lucie County. We ask for your wisdom and guidance as this board considers the matters before us, decisions that affect the lives, safety, and future of our community. Bless our commissioners, staff, and all those who've gathered here today with clarity and patience. Help us to work together in fairness and integrity and respect for one another. We also lift up our residents. May they find strength, opportunity, and peace in their daily lives. Protect those who serve our community in uniform and those who dedicate their time and talents to making the county a better place. May our actions today reflect good stewardship, sound judgment, and a commitment to the common good. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and we're going to take a short recess and go into our special district meetings, and I'll start Commissioner Leet with mosquito control.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to call the Mosquito Control District meeting to order. First on the agenda is public comment. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, we'll close public comment, come back. Next on the agenda is a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. There is nothing on the regular agenda. Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. And going over to Commissioner Clasby for erosion.
We will now come to order as the erosion district. If anybody would like to come do public comment, please come up to the podium. Seeing no movement from the crowd, we'll close public comment. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from July 22nd?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Can I get a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We have no items on the regular agenda. We are adjourned.
The Environmental Control Board.
Now come to order as the Environmental Control Board. If I can borrow someone's agenda from there right now. Can I get a motion to, can we open up general public comment for the Environmental Control Board? Seeing no one coming up to comment, we'll close that. And can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the May 20th meeting?
Motion to approve.
There is no, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There's no further items on the agenda. We are adjourned.
All right, Commissioner Lowry, Sustainability District.
Thank you. We come together as a sustainability district. First item of business is public comment. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board? Seeing how there's no movement for public comment, we have an approval of the minutes from meeting from May 20th. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. There's no items on the regular agenda, so can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. Thank you so much. And coming back to our regular meeting, moving on, I need an approval of the agenda with the additions, deletions, and revisions as received.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Clasby.
I don't know if this is the appropriate time because I don't know that we can remove it. We'd have to open and close the public hearing, I assume, but 11.2, I'm suggesting that we move that to another agenda because the item directly preceding it is a workshop for that public hearing. I talked to staff and they're of a different opinion of me, but I think that those need to be on different meetings to allow the public the time to consider what they hear at the public workshop.
Okay, so heard and acknowledged. I believe we would wait until we got This is the consent portion, so I believe that would not be the appropriate time. As far as, did everyone receive the one pager? Okay, so what we're doing is just acknowledging the changes to the printed agenda with the added items or pulled items at this time. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, there are no presentations. Okay, I'm going to open it up now to general public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board, please do so at this time. Good morning, Mr. Fry, how are you?
Good morning, I am doing well. Madam Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Ed Fry. My address is 1816 Hazelwood Drive, White City area. Wanted to talk about the two issues that you had with your last meeting. They were the quasi-judicial hearings. One of them was with the planned unit development. The second one was with the daycare. It was just interesting to me to see the difference in the process in terms of the notification that was provided on both of those items. I know with the planned unit development, you had posted a board, you had an advertisement in the newspaper. Of course, who reads newspapers nowadays? And it just seemed that a lot of the people that made comment at the meeting on that, it was like they almost seemed like they just came aware of it the week before. So I don't know if there's anything that you may be able to do to change that process, where the developer would be able to meet with the residents that are impacted by this type of change to kind of make it go a little bit smoother. It just seemed like the residents were somewhat surprised about, what was planned in the area. And I felt like if there'd been a chance for the residents to meet with the developer and county staff ahead of time, I think that process could have gone much better. And the reason I looked at the other one, it was the daycare, and the staff did reach out to the people that were in that area to make them aware of what that change was for the daycare. And they had sent notices out to them, asked them for comments, and they had gotten some responses where some were in favor of it and one was not. So it's just interesting to see the difference in that, and I'm hoping as you go forward, for anything that may impact, residents that are kind of outside that 500 yards or 1,000-yard area, that it would be, helpful to do that. I'm running out of time, so I ask you for a little bit more discretion here. And this concerns the items on the consent agenda for the airport. One of them is dealing with the airport cameras, and I know they're also going to be running out badges that all of us will have to use. I'm a member of the EAA, Experimental Aircraft Association, Chapter 908, and my plane is in a hangar that's right there on the field. And I have to go through the gate to be able to get in. Previously, a few years ago, when we had the badges in place, they were working fine, and then all of a sudden one night I went out there to get into my plane, make a night flight, and lo and behold, I couldn't get through the gate to get to my airplane. So I'm hoping that the system that's going to be rolled out this go-round is going to work much better than the previous system.
Thank you, Mr.
One
Fry.
more thing, if I
No,
could.
sir.
I'm done?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, I do want to just comment because, and I'm sure Commissioner Clasby also wants to jump on that, but I just want to comment as far as neighborhood participation and coordination. So I can speak for this board, and especially since our two new commissioners have come on in November, we have greatly enhanced the requirements of developers to provide mandatory neighborhood participation meetings. This team has pushed for that for years. They've always suggested it, asked for it to be done, and most of the developers in the area absolutely do that. But that's something that this board fought for. We thought it was important, and that's something that was we just voted on and approved last meeting, if I'm not mistaken, last meeting or the meeting before. Additionally, we also expanded the notification area, so that PUD that you referred to, they got their notices, they participated in their P&Z neighborhood meeting, our meeting. Definitely not a perfect process, but this board has fought for the residents that live here, and I think we're all fairly proud of the work that we've done to fight for our local residents, so. With that, is there anyone else wishing to come forward for public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. There's no proclamations. I need approval of 3 sets of minutes for July 7th, July 8th, and July 10th. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to consent agenda. Is there anyone wishing to pull an item for discussion? If not, I'll accept a motion.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Lowry?
I just wanted to pull item H2 for a little further discussion.
Okay, 10H2, I believe that's going to be the transit. The RFP for the art. Okay. Dolfo, would you like to come up this way? Commissioner Lowry, I'll go ahead and let you
Yeah, I
take the
just,
charge.
this was after my briefings yesterday, so I didn't really have an opportunity to talk to administration about this. Got a quick phone call yesterday, and I completely appreciate the process and the way staff does this, and the whole bidding process is all new to me, and I'm learning and understanding. However, there was a concern with one of the choices, actually choice number 3, coming in like $13.5 million cheaper. And the representative just asked if, if this is something we could look into further, maybe table it for further discussion.
Good morning, everybody. I did
Good morning.
prepare something, and just in case I was called up, so
Perfect.
if it's okay, I can read
Sure.
this? Okay, and then we can go from there. So, good morning, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners, and Administration. Adolfo Cavelli, St. Lucie County Transit Director. On February 9, 2025, Request for Proposal 25-021 was published. 170 companies were notified, 50 RFP documents were distributed, and 7 proposals were received. On June 6, the Selection Committee of 5 evaluated and ranked the proposals that were received. On July 24th, the presentations took place with the Selection Committee in attendance, legal, and purchasing. After the presentations were completed, the Selection Committee of 5 presented their scores. Their scores were combined, ranking MV Transportation number 1. Compared to 5 years ago when we did this process, a lot has changed. Transit became its own department and secured 20-year interlocal agreements with St. Lucie Village and the cities of Port St. Lucie and Fort Pierce to continue funding of our transit system. We went from 1 microzone and 2 vehicles 5 years ago to today having 3 zones and 11 vehicles. This service alone will provide 80,000 trips this fiscal year. Our paratransit service went from 200 trips a day during the week to now over 500 trips a day. This service will provide over 120,000 trips for residents to places like dialysis appointments, Alzheimer's care, food shopping, education, work, and many other life-sustaining activities. We secured funding for the Fort Pierce Redevelopment Agency so they could continue their downtown microtransit zone until 2027, cutting their local costs in half by securing a 3-year, $1.5 million grant requiring a match of $750,000. The final design for our operations and maintenance facility is expected to be completed by early 2026. Transit recently applied for a grant for the construction of this project. We also partnered with Senior Resource Association in Indian River County for the award-winning Advantage Ride program, which provides trips for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities throughout the entire Treasure Coast. These few items that I just spoke about cannot take place without a great provider. This RFP selection process included a selection committee of 5. The scoring was broken up by Certified Minority Business Enterprise, 2.5 points. Plans and Programs, 35 points. Financial Capacity and Cost of Services, 20 points. Employee Retention, Benefits, and Compensation Plans, 10 points. Experience and Capacity of Firm, 20 points. Past Record and References, 10 points. And Disadvantaged Business Enterprise and Small Business Enterprise Utilization, 2.5 points, for a total of 100 points. Through this scoring process, the committee granted the top 4 scores to come in for in-person presentations, which were also scored. The top 4 firms after round 1, number 1, MV Transportation, number 2, Transportation America, number 3, MTM Transit, and number 4, Keolis. And after the presentations, the final rankings were number 1, MV Transportation, number 2, MTM Transit, number 3, Transportation America, and number 4, Keolis Transit Services. When reviewing the proposals, the focus was identifying a contractor with a lot of experience and someone who has experience with our size, which as described is larger and more complex since our last request for proposals. Between our growth and the time it takes to receive vehicles, maintenance plans were extremely important. It was important to know that the contractor had a comprehensive maintenance plan and that they were equipped with handling day-to-day issues, road calls, crew out, swapping broken down vehicles, and many other maintenance functions. It was important to know where they would be located and what type of property they would be using for our vehicles and team members. Thank you for your time. So just wanted to put that out there. I appreciate that. Cost was 20% of the scoring.
And I know, I'm sure, I mean, I know you've worked so hard to get this system working flawlessly. And
Yes, thank you.
we've been very comfortable with the company. I just wanted to bring it to light and
course.
see what the other commissioners thought about it. I know change is very hard, especially in transit.
Understood.
But it just, it was brought to my attention. I just wanted to bring it up.
I don't know, I don't have the ranking, the cost, but there was a gap between first and seventh. There was the cheapest, there was the most expensive.
And price isn't always,
I believe our the
deciding factor, but.
Our contractor that was ranked number one is the third in pricing, out of the third cheapest out of the seven.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Classy.
So I have some trouble with this as well. Number one, I know that you guys put a lot of work into this, so don't take these comments as negative,
sir.
but I'm going to give them because I feel like it's my responsibility to.
Of course.
There was only 3 items attached to this agenda item, none of which mentioned price, which I know that price isn't everything, but if there's a $15, $20 million gap between things, that's something. And there's really, just looking at the agenda, there is no way for me to tell that. There's no way for me to tell that. There's no way for the public to tell that. I'm a little disappointed with the lack of information included in the backup here, and I would like additional time to consider this. Like our, some wise person once told me, I don't just take things on the fly. I need to take it, look at it, and consider it for a while. And I'm not comfortable just hearing verbally what the prices are of each of these. I'd like some more time to consider this myself as well.
Understood, Commissioner.
So.
It's all the board.
I will also share that I had a late meeting yesterday afternoon, and it was in regards to this contract and some concerns. One of the items obviously being the difference in pricing, which again, pricing is not everything, but when it is that amount, I don't think we're doing the residents justice without just giving it a second look. Going forward, I would like to see when we do these RFPs and we come back with the information for backup, the pricing automatically included. It's not reasonable to expect everything's always uploaded. That's where if we want more, we could certainly ask for it, but I think that's sort of goes hand in hand, ranking, pricing, because that is a big portion of what they look at. What does our time look like? Because I have obviously requested everyone's bid packets, did not have ample time with everything else to look at that last night. I also would like to take a look through them, 20 years of responding to RFPs. Again, I would just like to take a look at it. But what does a timeline look like? When is our contract with MV good through? Is there a possibility of extension? Can we just talk about some of those
course.
variables?
And the 13 million, I just want to make sure everyone's clear. I think that's the number
Over
over a
5
5-year
years,
period.
yes, sir.
So it's like, I think it was like 17, the number one ranked firm was 17% cheaper than the top ranked firm. And then it was probably $30 million over the life of the contract if we went with the most expensive firm.
Got it.
The contract with MV ended June 30th of this year. We extended with MV for 3 months. We were capable for a 6-month extension. We have to give them a 30-day notice. So if we are good with MV until September 30th of this year, we would need to notify them by the end of this month to extend through December 31st. Did that answer the question? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair, Commissioners,
Commissioner
I think Jennifer Hill can provide a little bit of additional information. Keep in mind that this is a majority of grant fund. We're happy to first off, we're happy to, push it 2 weeks, let you guys have time to do it and move it to a later agenda. That's no problem whatsoever. But keep in mind that this is a heavily grant-funded process, and the vendor is, one of the reasons of choice is, with having the adequate vendor is making sure that we have a vendor that has the ability to help us secure those grants in order to keep this going, number one. Number two is the grants are very particular about the process that we went through. So if for some reason the board after review has, wants to maybe look to go a different direction, and Jennifer can enlighten more, we might have to go all the way through a process all over again, because we could lose all the grant money and things of that nature by diverting from the process that we've had established and have went through, and that's one of the key components of the grant funding. So, but I'll let Jennifer pile on to a little more.
Yeah, so that is correct. When it comes to the grants, one of the things that they look through when they do their triennial reviews and they come in and ask for information about our programs is to make sure that we followed our purchasing process when it comes to this. So, and for us to follow our purchasing process as it is, would mean that you would follow through with the committee recommendations, which would ultimately, whether today or in 2 weeks, lead to permission for for transit to negotiate an agreement with the highest ranked firm. Absent that, the process would say that if you have a good reason that you want to not award it to the top-ranked firm, the process would indicate that you should go back out and start the process over again. Now, what the risk is on it if the board decides to go a different route, I can't say for sure, but all I can say is I believe that the safest route is to follow the process through, to not potentially jeopardize a very heavily grant-funded program. One of the other things I did want to point out is, as Adolfo had mentioned, there were criteria and different things that were looked at, cost being one component. But even if Transportation America had been given every point available for the cost component of it, they would still not make it into the #1 spot as far as the way it is, because of the weighting of the ranking of all the criteria, the importance that was placed on the programming and the other factors in the process.
Madam Chair.
Okay. Commissioner.
Can you explain how the difference of operators affects the grants?
So when it comes to the operators themselves, I'll let Adolfo speak to that, but from the purchasing side of the house, what we're just trying to ensure is that we follow the rules. The rules from purchasing side just say that you have to competitively go through the competitive process every so many years, and you have to follow your own procedures in seeing that through. From dealing with the granting agencies and the vendors themselves, I'll let Adolfo speak to that.
Yeah, to be fair and honest, it doesn't matter who the vendor is after that point. It's more the RFP process part that Jennifer's speaking about. But whatever vendor we're paying, as long as they're following the guidelines and all of our CFR 1490 and everything they're supposed to be following, they get paid for the service.
Madam Chair, are you done?
No, good, yeah, go ahead.
So I was involved in this process years ago, and this was a very contentious decision that was made because the company that had it for 30 years, and our transit was not doing what it was supposed to do. And so I requested a forensic audit outside 100 miles of St. Lucie County. That audit came back and it showed exactly what I thought it would. MV was the company that it was awarded, and I can tell you all at that time, the past provider went and drug buses out of the woods. He had 10 of our buses that he had convinced staff to put in his name. It has been a long time to get to where we are right now, and the reason why we chose MV is they're an international company. They came in, they got the place up on Midway Road, they put in bus washes. We have got buses since then, and they have, for every single thing I've ever asked of them, because I ride the buses, I have called there and said, the US 1 bus is full, can we add another bus? They have. The jail, I asked for a stop out there, they went out there. It wasn't being utilized, so instead of just doing away with it, they have a service that when the inmates are discharged, they send a van to get them, to take them to the Avenue D terminal. MV Transportation, in my opinion, has gone over and above anything that's ever been asked of them. The relationship that I think the county has with them has been extraordinary. I don't know if they have met with any of you, but they have come through and they have met. I don't know if it's been since this past year or whatever, but I am totally confident that they are the right company. They have a great staff. I don't know if any of y'all have ever been to a Transportation Disadvantage Board meeting, but if you were to go to some of those meetings and see the disabilities that they have to meet in getting these people to and from their jobs, and doctors, they go above and beyond and pick them up from their door and take them to the hospital and wherever they work. So I am totally confident that this is a decision, and I know that staff knows what they're doing whenever they look at this contract. I'm sure that somebody in transit can tell you that they have won several awards because of the stuff that they have submitted through MV Transportation that they have done. I have gone to the transportation national conferences with our staff, and we are recognized at almost every conference we go to because of our transit. So I am proud of where we have come. I know what we came from, and I see us only doing anything but going up. So.
Okay. All right. So hearing from everyone up on the board, and after hearing from the team, Mr. Landry, sounds as though it would be okay to allow staff to continue to move forward while there's at least 3 of us, it sounds like, that want to just take a second look in the meantime. And so I would ask if you guys were okay with moving that forward, but knowing that, you know, we're going to be continuing to kind of dig in and see if there's anything that draws a red flag or is an area of concern. Knowing that we have that final vote to approve the contract, and at that point in time, that's when we could technically not approve that contract.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Clasby.
just to get clarification here, this on the consent agenda that was pulled, this is to award the contract. Is that right? This is the final vote to award the contract.
I think it's permission to allow staff to negotiate with the number 1 ranked firm and bring back a contract for board approval. Is that correct?
Correct, sir. And it
Okay.
says if staff is unable to negotiate a satisfactory contract with the highest ranked proposer, negotiations with the company shall be terminated, and staff shall attempt to negotiate a contract with a second ranked firm, and so on and so forth.
I'd recommend we table it at this time because I don't have enough information in the backup agenda to do my fiduciary responsibility. I have no way of knowing from this agenda, nor do the public for the last 6 days, however long it's been posted, how much we're committing to spend here. So I would ask that we table this until the next meeting.
Okay. So did you, I mean, we could certainly throw out a motion and see if it passes.
A motion that we
This would
table
move
this
it.
until the next meeting to get further information.
All right. Commissioner Clasby has made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Lee, did you have comments?
No, I was getting ready to second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Townsend,
No, ma'am.
Commissioner Lee,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Laurie,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Clasby,
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Fowler.
No, ma'am, with the comment that in the background, I'm going to continue to do my research. But okay, so motion passes. 10H2 is being tabled.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Adolfo. Thank you, Jen.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner
Can I just
Townsend.
want to recognize
Yes, ma'am.
10M2 and 10M8 that they are the paving contractor in the Taylor Creek Bridge, and it's paid for by the half-a-cent sales tax.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so with that, we need to just go back and do a motion for the rest of the consent agenda, correct? Yes, okay. I didn't think we did it, but, all right, so is there a motion for the remainder of the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, moving into public hearings, 11A1. Morning, Ben.
All right, good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. For the record, Ben Balser. I'm joined up here with Corey Benton. He's our Planning and Zoning Manager. Joe Sabater, he is our Senior Management Analyst. And Patrick Diane, he is our Public Works Director. It's a pleasure to introduce Negan Camp, who you all know with Banesh. Banesh is our county's road impact fee consultant. The first item this morning is our second public workshop to present the extraordinary circumstances necessitating the need to exceed statutory phase-in limits. Our first public workshop was held on July 17th at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So this is the second of two public workshops, and this is in line with the statutory requirements for increasing impact fees. And without further ado, I will turn it over to Negan to go over the presentation.
Good morning, Negan Camp with Banesh. In terms of the background, as you know, the transportation impact fees were last updated in 22, and at the time, they were capped at a 50% increase and then discounted to about 75% of that amount. The purpose of this study is to reflect most current data, and given the changes in both impact fee variables and the discounted rates, the fee increases exceed the 50% limit. In 2021, we had a House bill passed that placed the limits on the impact fee increases, but it also included an exception clause that says if there's a study completed within the past 12 months demonstrating extraordinary circumstances, 2 public workshops are held to discuss these circumstances, and the increase is approved by 2/3 of the governing body, then it can be more than 50%. This year, we had Senate Bill 1080 pass, and it has some clauses that become effective in January. It basically disallows the use of extraordinary circumstances unless the jurisdiction increased fees in the past 5 years, and it requires unanimous approval of the governing body instead of the 2/3. The circumstances themselves are not defined in the statutes. Jurisdictions that use this clause show that they had high growth levels, permitting levels, they have outdated fees or artificially suppressed fees. They've been experiencing higher cost levels than previously contemplated, and they have a list of projects that need additional funding. So this slide is showing the calculated fees compared to the current fees for some example land uses. And again, based on request, we created a 2-tier fees, urban versus rural, meaning within the urban service boundary and then outside the urban service boundary. So as you can see that in all cases, the increases are more than 50%. So that trigger the use of extraordinary circumstances, along with the fact that county is updating the fee sooner than 4 years. So when we look at St. Lucie County demographics, you rank 20th in population out of 67 Florida counties, so it's on the larger side. 7th in projected growth rate, 14 in projected absolute growth, and 13 in residential permitting. So this is all to say that you're a larger county growing very rapidly. This chart shows the residential permitting trends, and you can kind of see we had the boom in 04, 05, 06, and then we had the Great Recession. The permitting decreased, and now it's picked up, and especially since the pandemic, that increase became higher. So all that place pressure on the infrastructure. Since 2017, the cost increased significantly, and we are looking at 2017 because that created the basis for the 22 fee, since it was capped at 50% and undiscounted. So you can kind of see different indices are showing anywhere from a low of 50% to 140% increase in transportation costs. And this is showing the same type of information graphically. And again, you can see a similar pattern to your permitting. 04, 05, 06, we had the high costs. Then during the recession, costs decreased, and then they started to increase again. So when you had the 2017 update that was looking at a time period just getting out of recession, and then during 22 update, we are still looking at cost increases, but they are more even in a way. And then after the pandemic, that level of increase heightened significantly. So this table has really showing three different, approaches. So in the red box, you have the current adopted rates compared to the calculated rates. And again, you have these increases that are definitely higher than 50%. The yellow box shows what was calculated in 22. So if those rates were adopted at 100% at the time, the current increases would have been around 40, 45%, like definitely less than 50% for many of the categories. And then the last box is showing if we are to cap that rates today, how much lower than the full cost they're going to be. So in these, for these land uses, that's anywhere from 30% to 70% discount compared to the full cost. So again, this is kind of showing the combination of you seeing cost increases as well as the prior policies about the discounts creating a larger increase than you would have experienced otherwise. In addition, the county has a large list of either unfunded or partially funded road improvements. So this list is not necessarily comprehensive, but it gives you examples and adding up to about $285 million. And the long-range transportation plan shows that even after the cost-feasible plan is built, there will be overcapacity roads in the county. So overall, it's going to be about 20% of the roads will still be overcapacity. And in terms of the revenue projections, currently the county is collecting about $10 million, and the impact fees are pretty much your only source of building capacity. So reviewing the permitting levels, we developed a range of permits. So if it's going back to about 2018 or so, it would have been about 4,000 permits per year. More recently, it's higher. It would be about 6,000 permits a year. So in that range, the full fees would generate anywhere from 19 to 28 million per year. So over a 5-year period, it would be about 94 to 140 million. So as you know, this is the second workshop discussing the extraordinary circumstances, and then after this, we move to the first reading of the proposed ordinance, and September 2nd is the adoption hearing as far as next steps. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Questions, comments from the board at this time before I open it up to public hearing?
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Klasky?
Yeah, I have a question. Whose idea was it to have the second public workshop at our board meeting?
I mean, we've seen other jurisdictions doing it, so I may have mentioned it as how others are doing.
It's not a good way to do business in St. Lucie County, to be transparent, from my opinion. You need to be going out into the public and educating people. Look around, most of the people here work here. So this is not the ideal target audience for this workshop.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Clasby, like Negan said, this is our second public workshop. We did hold the first one a month ago. We have made some extensive stakeholder and public outreach efforts, which we'll go into in the next presentation. To streamline this process, Negan did recommend that other jurisdictions have gone through the same process. As I look out in the crowd, I know that there's a number of interested stakeholders here to talk about the road impact fee, multimodal impact fee ordinance, the next item. This item right here is just for the extraordinary circumstances provision and meet the statutory requirements in order to raise our impact fees.
As I was sitting here listening to the workshop, I was trying to find on our county's website the contract that we have with Bentic. It's not easily accessible. In fact, I don't know if it's publicly posted on our website at all, but I would think that you shouldn't be able to do the workshop and the first public hearing in the same day. Part of the contract was to have 2 public workshops.
Well, if we don't have a meeting used, we don't charge, if that's what.
That's not, I'm not talking about the price, I'm talking about let's put it in that way so that way the public has broad access to it. And to put the public workshop on the same day within minutes of each other for the public hearing for the first reading, I don't think is acceptable. But
Commissioner.
I could have others that disagree with me, so, you know.
And just to follow up, Commissioner Fowler, if I may, this public workshop was included in our public notice ad. We went above and beyond which isn't required. We went above and beyond to try to get this information out to the public. We thought that it would actually streamline the process, and the folks that are here for the first reading of the ordinance, obviously they're interested in our road impact fee updates, and they would be the same folks that would be commenting on our extraordinary circumstances provisions.
So my thought is, and I'll just open this up and see if, what the will of the board is. Definitely, we have stakeholders here in the audience, so I definitely want, if they want to be heard, give them the opportunity to speak to us, share their concerns, where they're at. I know Port St. Lucie is here. However, I do think it is in the best interest of the community to postpone this vote. This is not a small decision, and whatever we decide, there will be impacts, whether it's developers, consumers, government.
May I add just one statement? The first reading, there is no vote for you except for setting the second date. And part of the reason staff scheduled these together is the first workshop had about 6 individuals that attended. It wasn't heavily, attended, so we tried to reach out to other groups and tell the chamber, the Builders Association, and so forth. And then this route, they actually get the entire package of information. The workshop is only on extraordinary circumstances. You're not going over the schedule of fees, the ordinance, or anything else. The second item is where you actually review the ordinance and the content that's available relative to that and the proposed changes, and it would be to just deliver that information to set the second hearing so that you have more time, as well as the community has that time to review that information. And the workshops are based on a statutory change that has recently occurred. If not, those usually weren't part of the process. This is a new workshop on extraordinary circumstances only.
And I understand that. However, I'm sure my phone is not the only phone that's been going off. And while we do an incredible job of getting the information out there, I mean, some people are on TikTok, some are on Instagram, some are reading the newspaper, some are what have you. So we all know it's impossible to reach everyone. And then let's just face it, the people that these affect the most are busy, very busy. So again, this is a big decision. There's a lot here. I hear you, Ms. Santamaria, but I really think we should consider having an additional workshop, additional time to get input from the communities, business community, developers, all the external stakeholders. Again, I want to have this conversation today, get the input and all of that, but I do think we need to get a little more engagement before we finalize everything.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Lee.
I wouldn't disagree with, we need some more time to look at this. However, we are under a time constraint. If someone could explain that so the board understands that again, please.
So, Madam Chair, Commissioners, the second item on the agenda for a public hearing is where you can set those dates and do that. And for consideration, I think it's tentatively suggested as September 2nd. You could move that to the second meeting in September. That would be almost 30 days from today, in a sense. But I do think that we're looking to get adoption prior to October 1 because the rules by statute have changed, and post October 1 it's a different process. So we're looking to try to have this adopted pre-October 1 if the board's willing to do so. But we could move it to that second meeting in November if that was the will of the board when we get to that item number 2, and that gives you almost 30 days from today. And if you directed staff to do something else, and as far as a meeting, that could be done potentially as well in the meantime if we had to have another meeting with offer to the public, a workshop or something.
Okay, and then just to clarify, because you said the second meeting of November, you mean the second meeting of September?
I'm sorry,
correct?
September. My fault, September. My
Okay.
apologies.
All right. So with that, what I'm going to go ahead and do, this is a workshop. If there's anyone in the audience that's wishing to come up and put something on the record, talk to us, share with us your concerns, challenges, we want to hear from you. Good morning, Mr. Raines. How are you?
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning. My name is Bob Raines. I'm a land use attorney with the Gunster Law Firm, and I'm here this morning on behalf of Oak Ridge Ranchers LLC and Oak Ridge Ridge Residential Investments LLC, which are the owners and developers of property here in St. Lucie County. I would like, with your permission, to submit a letter of objection to address to the Commissioners regarding this item.
Thank you.
And there's some more detail in the letters, but just to highlight a couple of things. Oak Ridge Ranches supports lawful and reasonable increases in impact fees. That's not the issue. However, it opposes unjustified increases in claims of extraordinary circumstances used to exceed the impact fee caps and phasing requirements set forth in the Florida statutes. Furthermore, we do not believe that the data that the county is relying on supports these increases in claims of extraordinary circumstances. For instance, we're talking about population growth and the construction costs. And it's interesting that the consultant mentioned that in the 2022 increases, had we taken the full increase at that point, we wouldn't need to exceed the 50% cap. So to me, that's bootstrapping. The issues that we created back then, we're now paying for now. I don't believe you can bootstrap and call that an extraordinary circumstance. These proposed increases will significantly burden future homeowners and businesses in St. Lucie County. Florida law only allows an impact fee to rise above 50% in the event of extraordinary circumstances. Rising construction costs, especially those that are occurring on a national trend, do not meet this threshold. They're not unexpected, and the percentage increases are not commensurate with what the construction cost increases are. So we're increasing these significantly. As far as population growth, impact fee collections mirror new building permits. So whether there's 3 building permits or 3 new residents or 3,000, they're already linked. Impact fees are linked to the number of new residences or new businesses that are being created. So population growth does not constitute extraordinary circumstances. We have been well aware of the population growth that's been occurring in Florida, let alone St. Lucie County. The thresholds and the phasing requirements in the Florida statutes were designed to prevent these type of increases that are excessive and burdensome to new residents and development. Accordingly, we would respectfully request that you reconsider these proposed increases under the guise of extenuating circumstances or extraordinary circumstances. We believe, again, lawful and reasonable increases are understandable, But this, we believe, is just a way, and I respectfully say it, I know what you guys are trying to do the very best you can, and we appreciate the opportunity to come here and have this workshop and the discussions that you all have had. But we do believe that these are not the right circumstances and the right increases at this time. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Teresa Lamar Sarno for the record with the City of Port St. Lucie. Thank you for having us and hosting this workshop today. The city's here today to share some initial concerns with the proposed road impact fee study. Our consultant will provide some more detailed comments regarding the study, but they are preliminary, and I appreciate the time that you're giving additional 30 days to review it, because I know the city was just notified of this change a day before your first workshop. So we did put into the record at that time that we did not have sufficient notice to review the document back then. However, I'm here also to represent the city in the hopes that you would allow more time, which you are, seems like you're going to be doing that, so we appreciate that, and continue to refine the data in the plan and the study. And we want to continue to collaborate. I think we have been working towards that, and we are here in an effort to continue to collaborate in making sure that we are serving our residents in adequate infrastructure, and is that we all need. So I am putting some comments into the record. I have a memo and a preliminary analysis on behalf of the city. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you for being here. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jonathan Paul, consultant for the City of Port St. Lucie, updating their mobility fee. Part of the reason we are updating the city's mobility fee is the changes to Florida statute that require cities and counties to work together towards having a transportation plan that meets the needs of the residents in the community, known as House Bill 479. So we had actually begun the process of updating our fee roughly 6 or 7 months ago. In anticipation of that law, there's a requirement that there's one fee that should be assessed within a municipality, and that you coordinate between the city and the county to get to that fee. Right now, we've been going through the process of getting feedback from our community stakeholders. We've held a workshop. We're getting ready to hold another one next week. We were unaware of the first workshop. I will say, in terms of, I do these for communities throughout Florida, I have never held an extraordinary circumstance workshop on the same day as a first public reading. The whole intent of a workshop is to get feedback, address that feedback, and then make recommendations. Further, if you actually make a motion to vote on the first ordinance and you don't have any direction or changes, then you'll actually have to reschedule that second reading anyways if you're making any changes to the ordinance. We had raised a number of issues back in 2022 when we last went through this process related to the share of county roads and the needs within the City of Port St. Lucie. So we have several documents that we're going to enter into the record. We have already met with your consultant staff one time, and we hope to continue to meet with them and further refine the data. The City Council's ultimate goal is to work with the community, to work with our stakeholders, to work with the county to come up with a system that works for everybody and a fee that's fair and equitable. I will say, we're going to go through a number of process on our own updating the fee, and we've already made changes that have helped reduce the fee initially, and we're likely to go through with a detailed list of projects that will further refine the overall need in the fee for the community. We actually have a very detailed mobility plan that looks at transit, looks at roadways, looks at sidewalks, looks at bicycle lanes, and it goes throughout the entire city of Port St. Lucie. We have it online, so you actually be able to click on the roadway link to see exactly what we're proposing. That's the level of need and analysis that this community is expecting. If we're able to make it a claim of extraordinary circumstance, it'll be based on that documented need that will be vetted through the overall process in the community. So I would strongly suggest that you consider your ordinance delaying that to allow people the proper time to both coordinate and have input and feedback into the system. And this is definitely an anomaly. I have not seen this anywhere, and I would not advise this for any of my clients, because the whole intent of a workshop is to gather feedback from the community. With that said, I'll enter in the documentation that we have into record about some of our concerns with the needs study that was presented. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Bo Bardavan. I'm the Director of Land for K. Hovnanian, National Home Builder, who's active here in the county. I just had a few points I'd like to raise. The presentation started with some slides showing the growth of the county. I'm curious as to whether that was inclusive of the cities, because I would argue that most of the growth in the county has probably been in the city of Port St. Lucie and not in unincorporated areas. Secondly, I believe impact fees are only supposed to be used for new development. I haven't had a chance to look at the list of projects, but I would suspect that there are projects on there that are actually for widening of existing roads, and that's not what impact fees are supposed to be used for. And thirdly, there seems to be a rush to do something before October 1st. I'm not up on the latest laws and regulations, but perhaps someone could explain what's happening on October 1st that's changing and why this feels rushed to get before that vote. Maybe those changes are to the benefit of the public. I don't think anyone here knows what those changes are going to be, so if somebody could elaborate and explain to us, the public that are here for a public workshop, why October 1st is so critical, what the new changes in the codes and the rules are going to be after October 1st, that you guys are trying to rush this. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, can you spell your name for me, please?
Bo, B-O, last name Barnavan, barn where animals live, and Avon, ding dong, Avon lady.
Thanks, Eric. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Aiden Williams, and I represent Meritage Homes as their land acquisition manager. Over the last several years, we've had the privilege of serving St. Lucie County by building several communities such as Azalea, Bristol at Wilder, and Tidewater. We delivered roughly 400 homes to residents in this county, and each one represents a dream fulfilled and a family safe and secure. Our mission is to build attainable homes for the backbone of our community. We serve nurses, police officers, county staff, teachers, and ultimately are here on their behalf. This proposed increase in mobility fees will directly impact these buyers. Builders or developers will be forced to pass these costs along to the end user. For example, today we were able to offer a new construction 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom townhome for $280,000 in our Tidewater community off of US 1. If these fees are raised as proposed, the same home will be priced at a minimum of $7,000 higher. To be candid, in this market, many of these nurses, police officers, county staffers, and teachers can simply not afford to spend an additional $7,000. We've heard your commitment to housing and believe that everyone deserves a safe and secure place to live. We believe in that too. Approving these fees will place a heavier burden on the people that we all want to support. What so many of our community desire is for more new attainable housing. A new heavy fee burden will result in a less and more expensive new housing coming to this market. Let's work together to find a solution that funds traffic improvements without pushing working families further from home ownership. Thank you for your time, leadership, and dedication to this community. We are proud to be a part of St. Lucie County and to help your constituents call this home. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? This is... Good morning, Pete.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Mr. Landry. Pete Tesh, St. Lucie EDC. I wasn't going to come up here, but I was compelled to do so. We have a great partnership. St. Lucie County is one of the strongest economies, not only in Florida, but the United States. We've done a lot together in terms of bringing new and existing industry to St. Lucie County. It is remarkable. It's extraordinary. We've had, as you know, the St. Lucie EDC with you all has measured the economic output that we've had over the last several years at the budget workshop. Wes McCurry, our senior VP, presented information about 85 projects, new and expanding industry. Those projects created over 12,000 direct jobs and over $3.3 billion in economic output. Just looking at some of the preliminary increases in industrial impact fees, as we're trying to develop new commerce centers. I can tell you intuitively that this is going to negatively impact our business recruitment and expansion efforts. So I don't know what the next steps of actually measuring the negative economic impact of exorbitant or extraordinary impact fees on industry. But as you know, 61% of our workforce hops in the car to drive someplace else to go to work. And if we're not creating jobs in St. Lucie County, you know, we're going to have more people on the roads in that arena. So not to get into the weeds with this, but we would appreciate more time. We work with Ben and Cody daily, and many of the development communities out here, and we work with the professionals every day. And they would tell you too, it's like having that line item on the impact fee over the overall cost of development is going to definitely slow that down. So, you know, the estimate, a fee, perhaps like a tax, you know, that industrial side is going to drop precipitously if you have a 300 or 400% increase in those impact fees. So anyway, I'm cautioning the commission. I know you all feel the same way that we do here on the private sector, that we have a remarkable economy here, and there's a lot more to go forward with. We do not want to stop it. Let's work together and give us a little extra time to come out with an equitable solution. Make sure that you have the revenues that you need to provide government services, and we're creating more quality jobs for our residents and our families. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to take the opportunity to take a few minutes? All right, I'll go ahead and bring it back to the board.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Townsend.
I do want to say that when they had their first workshop here, there were very few people that attended. So I don't think that this is done out of trying to slide anything through or anything like that, because they did actually try to have it here and offer it. With that said, though, I'm glad that we are postponing this, because I don't support this. I think a 399% increase in the industrial alone is a bit much. It's our targeted industry. And I have questions as far as the shovel-ready products that we've already approved. What does that do to them? Are they going to be grandfathered in? Are they not going to be grandfathered in? So I think it's sending a very mixed message, and I think that it's going to hurt our small businesses are really going to suffer from this, I think, more than anything, because, you know, almost a 400% increase is a bit steep. So I'll tell you right now, I won't be supporting this, regardless if you postpone it or not. I'm not in favor of it. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Townsend. Commissioner Clasby.
So you won't often hear me say that I agree wholeheartedly with a national home builder, but in this instance I do, and I think that we need to really kind of tell the whole story here. You brought up a good point. What is the time frame here? Why is October an important date? And administration will definitely correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it has something to do with not just the revenues that this will generate, because it's being proposed to us as extraordinary. I'm sorry, my time's up. It's being proposed to us as an extraordinary circumstance, but there's an additional requirement that as of next year, January 1st, it would require a unanimous vote. And I believe there's some fear that they won't get a unanimous vote. And so that may be a portion of why it's being pushed a little faster than normal. There's been a couple things on the agenda this evening that I'm not happy with. This being one of them, where I do feel like it's being rushed. You have the public workshop, and then you have the public hearing right afterwards. We've heard it several times that the first public workshop was not well attended. That is not something to brag about. Somebody needs to do a better job of getting butts in the seats to hear the presentation. I think part of the way that it wasn't super well attended is because it happened right here in the commission chambers at 2 o'clock in the middle of the week. That is not a time when we would have our board meetings typically, because we know that's not a time when the public's going to come here to listen to a meeting. So I think that we need to take a closer look at bid packages before they go out from the previous item, and the requirements of contracts like this that are going to be highly impactful for our local economy and for different things. There's different parts of this. Some of the things say, hey, this will significantly slow down development. I don't know that that's necessarily the worst thing I've ever heard, but I will tell you that the process has to be good for this to work. I'm not interested in just pushing things through. Not saying that's what's happening, but there is an appearance that that's what's happening here, in my opinion.
Yeah, and as I stated at the front end of this, I think postponing this vote and allowing time for additional public engagement, a thorough analysis of all of the fees being proposed. At the end of the day, none of us wants to raise taxes, and let's face it, even Florida legislature acknowledges impact fees are a way to offset new development off the backs of existing residents without raising taxes, right? New people are coming here. Let's face it, our home builders tell them to pull down the billboards, tell them to come to St. Lucie County out of New York and down south, right? However, don't get scared. I agree. We definitely need to postpone this. I think we're all facing challenges, right? If you looked in the backup, for instance, which I thought was interesting, on page 8, figure 3, it talks about FDOT's long-range estimates construction cost growth. And if you look at 2021, we're about 230% increase in costs. Fast forward to 2024, those costs for construction increases have grown to 475%. Flip to the next page, project needs. There's a list of roadways, and these roadways amount to $295 million, but that was as of 2021. So now we've seen an increase of 245% in increased costs from 21 to 24. This $295 million is now $1 billion for just these 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 15 roads. So we have some growth challenges, and there have been some bad decisions made from previous boards and all of those things. However, I agree. Should it be put on the current backs, right? Or is it up to us to try to figure out how to come up with that deficit? For instance, our pay-as-we-go policy, I know we tout that, we like that, but I don't know what individual pays as they go for anything. I mean, I don't save up $65,000 and then go out and buy a car, right? I wait until I have a deposit, I have a down payment, and then I finance the rest. We have to start looking at financing or bonding our roadways to be able to get things done. It's the only way we are going to make a dent in where we're at. So again, I think, and I have issues with the commercial and the industrial again. Do we want to go back to the 1980s and 1990s where we go to Martin County for everything, right? If that's the case, then, so be it. 399% will probably do just that. But at the end of the day, right, there has to be increases. It absolutely, I think, needs to be phased in. The question is, what are those increases? What do they look like? And again, making sure we understand the impacts that that's going to have on the development community, the consumers, and the local government and affordability for our existing and future residents. So,
Madam Chair.
Commissioner
I have a question and a comment. First of all, I want to thank Ben and Corey for going out to the Treasure Coast Builders Association and presenting. I think transparency is huge in this process because it affects so many people. When we, question for staff too would be we're postponing this the hearing, but we have a second workshop. Is it just posted, or are we personally inviting people that are directly going to be affected?
So we noticed the meeting. I know that the planning team sends it out to, all the agencies that they deal with on a regular basis. The five of you are more than welcome to reach out to everybody and let them know as well, what is happening, in complement of what staff is doing. So we do put it out there. We can't force people to come. We can't make people come. As you can see, even from the attendance today, we've had some professionals come in here from their respective agencies and gave their comments and of the 3 or 4 that have shown up. But again, as you know, there's many more out there, but they're not here, and we can't really do anything about that other than extend the offer to them and provide them a platform. They can email. We would have gave that to you in record. They could call. We do anything we can, but we do a significant amount of outreach. We do let everybody know, but we can't control the attendance when it comes down to that.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Lee?
We definitely need more time on this. Obviously, the issues that were brought up, the only thing that I want to comment on is we do need to increase them somehow. And where that balance is to keep our residents from having an increase in home prices and keep our builders or our industry from not knocking on our door is where the conversation needs to be, and what is the happy medium in there. So with that being said, we do need some more time on this, but I do agree that as the chair had mentioned, we're behind the 8 ball in roads, and I do believe it's was brought out pretty well in the study. It's because we didn't increase that much way back when that is causing this. Most residents don't want to pay for the developments coming in, and so you hear it on that side, but we also don't want to increase home values to where no one can afford them either. So again, a lot of conversations. There's got to be a happy medium. I'm glad Port St. Lucie is involved, and looking forward to working with them, and hopefully Fort Pierce will come to the board and we can have a big conversation and get this thing handled.
Madam Chair, if I may offer a suggestion when the board is ready for this at this time, but I can offer it now, but you can consider it later. But you have the option of doing the first reading today and then setting the second meeting for the last meeting in September. You have an option of postponing the first reading to next board meeting on September 2nd and then considering a date for the final reading as well. So you have a couple options, but in between time, we would ask if the board would consider we can bring this back on the informal in September that's in between these 2 meetings, to have more deeper discussion with the 5 years. We can meet one-on-one as also we can put out another notice for another workshop, in the evening, and host one and see if we have some more attendance in between that or prior to the informal, and then we can bring you back that feedback at the informal in September if that's something that the board would consider.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Clasby?
I wanted to make sure that I did give Planning Development Services credit. Ben Balser, Corey Benton, and Joseph Bader did a wonderful job coming to the Treasure Coast Builders Association breakfast, which is not an easy place to pitch impact fee raises. They did so professionally. They answered every question that was asked to them, and they did a wonderful job presenting the data that they had. I will say that the number one feedback that I did get was, why is the consultant not here? I feel like that would have been an appropriate venue for a workshop, because you would have had industry people asking technical questions. Some of the people there did share with me, not going to name who they are, that they felt a little uncomfortable asking the planning director, who's in charge of the building department, questions directly about impact fees. That I don't think that you guys would hold anything against them. I did tell them that, but I understand where they're coming from on it. It's kind of a weird situation. So I would also agree with Commissioner Townsend that I'm generally not in favor of raising impact fees, nor am I in favor of raising our millage rate or adopting new CDDs, but that's beyond the point. I think that this is a matter of process at this point. I'm definitely not willing to have the first reading move forward to a second reading at all today. You need to have this workshop, then we need to have the first hearing at a different meeting. I'm not seeing how this expedited process helps anybody.
All right, so item number 1, which is where we're still at, there's no vote necessary. That's the workshop. Okay. Is everyone good to move on? to the item that we're really already starting to discuss. And with that, I'll say yes. Okay, so Commissioner Clausby, you've taken the floor. Would you like to do a motion then?
I'd like to, if we're on item 11.
We're on A2 now, yep.
I'd like to motion to table this public hearing until first reading, until the following meeting, so that way it's not in the same meeting as the public workshop that discussed it.
So, Madam Chair, it'd be continue it to September 2nd, but we'd also have to engage public comment as well in this one before we make a motion.
Are we on A still?
No,
A1?
I literally just got done closing it and we moved into A2.
I know, but you have to have a vote.
No, we don't.
No, A1 was no vote, it was just a workshop.
She's
and public
asking for
comment.
confirmation over here.
There's no vote on A1, Madam Secretary. It was just for an opportunity for the board to have questions, comments, and hear from the public.
And then item 2 is what he's doing now, but does that not have to be open and closed for
That's-
that item because it's a public hearing?
That's what they said.
Yep. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to the public. Anyone wishing to address us on 11A2?
Good morning once again, Commissioners. For the record, Bob Raines here on behalf of Oak Ridge Ranches LLC and Oak Ridge Residential Investments LLC. I just wanted to thank you very much for consideration today and also for the continuance. We appreciate that. I just wanted to put into the record that the letter that I presented earlier at the workshop would also be included as part of this packet too, just for the record since we're doing that. But again, thank you all for your consideration. We appreciate the opportunity to continue to discuss it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. So noted. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Mary Savage Dunham on behalf of the City of Port St. Lucie. I have the same memo that Ms. Lamar Sarno and the talking points that she put into the record. I will not take your time and read all of them, but I did want to reiterate that, you know, nobody does like to raise fees, but we also understand there's extraordinary circumstances we're dealing with and impacts. The city is here to work with the county, with our developer partners, and our stakeholders, because we all want to make sure that at the end of the day, the fees are reasonable and we also get the infrastructure that we need. And that's the biggest delta. We need the infrastructure. So how do we get there? And how do we get there fairly? And I think both of our agencies are in the middle of that analysis. I thank you for continuing the process. I think that's the right thing. We've only done a very preliminary analysis of your data. I'd like to just put a couple comments out there on the record. So our number one concern is the county claiming 45% of travel in Port St. Lucie occurs on roads controlled by the county. We have asked for a list of all roads that were used to determine this percentage. We don't agree with that at this point. Your study identifies roadway needs, but none of the roadway needs that you identify are actually within the City of Port St. Lucie. And arguably, we have almost $1 billion worth of roadway needs within the city. So 45% of the travel is happening in the county, and thus the fees are going to the county. There's no acknowledgement of expending any money to address needs within the city. You know, that starts to be a challenge for us as we work to address our needs. So we do have some concerns about the math. Your study treats the entire county the same. I would say that the county is not uniform throughout. So we'd like to see the demonstrated county need for improvements related to the growth in Port St. Lucie to justify the fees of 45% that you're asking to take or divert from Port St. Lucie. We'd like to see the demonstration of the traffic flows between unincorporated county and the city, specifically east of I-95. And with that, I won't read through everything. All the comments that we made at the previous hearing, I'd request that you put into this. And I just have one more copy of each that I'll put into the record for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, County Commissioners. I'm Jonathan Paul, Principal of New Urban Concepts, consultant on behalf of the county. Thank you for taking this opportunity to consider this and to provide more time. It is an important process to go through. We at our city are heavily emphasizing identifying the needed improvements, both east and west of the interstate. East of the interstate has its own unique characteristics. That's where existing residents and businesses are, and that's where some of our more difficult and expensive projects are. Out west, you all know the growth that's coming, so we're really trying to get ahead and plan for it. And ultimately, future residents, existing residents, they don't know a city road from a county road from a state road. They know a road. They want to go from point A to point B, and ultimately it's best that both sides work with each other. As Mary had indicated, our preliminary review of the analysis, we've found some percentages of travel within Port St. Lucie, upwards of 45%. A lot of the data analysis that we have shows it more around the range of 10 to 15%. And east of the interstate, west of the interstate, where there's a lot of growth, I think there's opportunities to coordinate between the two entities to plan a roadway system out there. So we do find that we've done the analysis of trip flows to and from. I'd say maybe 10 years ago, there was probably just as many residents from Port St. Lucie going north into Fort Pierce for the government needs, for the daily needs. But as Port St. Lucie has continued to grow, and is what many communities like Port St. Lucie experience, growth begets growth. It draws more industry, draws more attraction, and what we're starting to see is more and more of the trips are actually starting to go into Port St. Lucie, and the council itself is hearing that because traffic's increased dramatically just in the 5 years since we've started doing the mobility planning. So we've prepared some analyses of trip flows to and from the county and the city for your consideration to look at those. We provided some analysis of travel within the city and the county. And ultimately, again, our goal and our intent is to provide a transportation system that works. Ultimately, this community, like many communities in Florida, is going to have to look at other alternatives, such as a sales tax, such as bonding, such as some other types of funding sources to fund some of these larger scale projects. Development can, help with a share of it, but largely, the needs of this community are great. You're a growing community, you're a vibrant community, unlike a lot of places in North Florida, maybe they don't have traffic. Maybe people don't necessarily want to go there. You have the benefit people actually want to be here. And so really finding a transportation system that works for everyone is important. So we're going to submit these items in the record. We look forward to working with your staff. I'll look forward to working with you and hopefully come up with something that works best for the overall community. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you so much, first of all, for your thoughtful time and deliberation on this and for actually moving it up on the agenda earlier because there are a lot of people here. This is a very big item for many of us. As you know, I represent Ashley Capital here. Ashley Capital is known as a developer, but I consider us a partner of the county. I've shared that publicly many, many times. We are in the epicenter of the county on Kings Highway, where that's where the property is located, and that's where many of us that are doing general industrial for small to mid-sized businesses to grow and expand are located. The first item I would like to ask if there's any way that you would push that meeting a little bit, just because on September 12th, we finally have just been able to round up our troops to get a date of September 12th to hold the Kings Highway Corridor meeting. That are all the developers, all of the builders, everyone that's along that stretch. It's a 10-mile stretch, give or take. We also are lucky enough to have other engaged stakeholders in the community that attend. And I think it would be a great forum. I was going to ask Ben and Corey and team if they would come and present on this item and hear from the different stakeholders that are in that group, whether they're residential, whether they're industrial, whatever they may be, parks, who knows? I mean, there's such a wild group there, but it is a very invested group in this community. Those are the people that you want to be in a room. Those are the people that are professional enough to not just yell, and if they yell, we'll keep them at bay, but to really give some good feedback. The impacts that we're having from an Ashley Capital perspective, just to put it in perspective, when you look at that 399%, that's $1.20 a square foot to $6. You can simply think of it as eggs. When they were paying $2 for eggs and we went to $6 or $7, it was a major crisis on eggs. Well, it's a major crisis for a developer like us that holds our product in perpetuity, that we have to pass along that cost to the end user. There's no way that we can eat that cost. And what that means is the person who's going to come, that 4,000, 6,000, 10,000 square foot tenant, is going to have to eat that $6 or $7, whatever it winds up being. Their lease rate's going to be higher. We're not going to be competitive. And what you're going to do is something that we've all worked so hard over the years to build that Kings Highway corridor. We finally got momentum to raise the tax base and create jobs. We're just going to stall. We're not going to be able, we may be able to build a building or two, but are we going to be able to rent it? It's not about building. Anybody could build anything. It doesn't, I could build something tomorrow. It doesn't matter if it's built. It matters that it's occupied and that we're doing what the goals of the county are, and that's creating good jobs for your residents and creating the tax base. So if I may ask if we can push that date, I was a little confused if it's the 2nd, if maybe we can push it to the other meeting after September 12th so that we can ask your team if they can come to the corridor and meet with our folks. We would greatly appreciate that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
May I have your name, please?
Oh, sorry. Jill Marasa, M-A-R-A-S-A.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? All right. Just taking a look at September real quick.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Platt.
So there's two options. I'd be comfortable with either one of them. We can move it to September 16th at 9 a.m. or October 7th at 6 p.m.
Madam Chair, the suggestion would be is to continue it to the September 2nd for the first reading, and then you guys can set the date for the final reading at potentially September 16th, which is the second meeting, or at a later one if that's what the will of the board is at that point. But that would give staff time to hold a workshop, come back to you at an informal, and potentially meet Ms. Marasa's meeting as well on the 12th, and be able to come back and provide that feedback to the board prior to the 16th of September. But we would like you to consider the continuance for the first reading, which is just setting the first reading to September 2nd at 6 p.m. or soon thereafter.
I like the idea of moving it to the 16th. That way we allow more time.
Okay. Is that in the
Yeah,
form of a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to table this until September 16th at 9 a.m. or shortly thereafter.
Okay, and is that,
First
are we doing
reading.
the first reading on the 16th?
That's what I just made a motion for, yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Lowry just seconded.
Yeah. You could still make a
Okay.
comment.
Mr. Landry, could you explain if that's going to, again, if that's going to have any problems moving it the week?
So it depends, it's obviously the will of the board. There is a statutory change that goes into effect on August 1st, which requires the interlocal agreement to maintain, to collect, excuse me, can you hear me?
October 1st.
Oh, what did I say?
August.
Oh, I'm sorry, October 1st, I apologize. That goes into effect October 1st, and it maintains the need for an interlocal agreement between the county and any municipality to collect fees. It also has those continued increased thresholds and the workshop requirements for the extraordinary circumstances, and it also requires a unanimous vote for any increases after that date. We do know that is a tough threshold, all those pieces, and that's part of the reason we've been trying to meet the deadline prior to October 1st. If you choose to have the first reading on 9/2, again, you're not making any final decisions on that date. You can give us more feedback. We can potentially hold the informal meeting that George recommended. We can also attend the Kings Highway Corridor meeting, and if you'd like us to hold another workshop, we can do that as well, and then potentially have the second hearing on 9/16.
Did that answer?
Ready.
Madam Chair.
I just want to make
Yep.
sure, are you good?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Clasby.
I'm not interested in skirting the law, but we have a motion and a second. I think we should call the roll.
All right, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion?
Yeah, let him restate the motion, please.
Okay.
So my motion was to table the first reading of item 11A2 till September 16th at 9 a.m. or shortly thereafter.
And for the record, Madam Chair, be continue, not table.
All right, so there's a motion to continue 11A2 for the first reading to September 2nd. Is there a second? And so just to clarify.
September 16th.
September
6:30.
16th, sorry. Okay. So essentially, this motion means we would not make our 10/1 date for clarification.
And the only reason for that deadline is so we can avoid a unanimous vote for approval.
I'm sorry, just to clarify, the unanimous vote is effective January 1.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
The October 1 date, right now, our rates are phased in every 4 years on October 1st. The fire EMS is phased in every year on January 1st. So if we adopt after October 1st, we miss that 90-day window, which means our rates will have to be phased in after January 1st, let's say February 1st, which means every year there's a rate increase October 1, January 1, and then February, March, whatever date we decide. So it'll be staggered every year. 3 times throughout the year, there'll be a rate increase. But as far as unanimous vote, that's January 1.
Okay. So that's really the difference for January 1. It's the
Yes.
only real change, other than everything else as far as the process goes.
And that's if we approve it.
Yeah, any rate increase, yes.
Right, so I mean, I feel like we should call the roll and stop commentary at this point.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion from the board, I'll entertain the secretary to call the roll.
Commissioner Townsend?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Leap?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Laurie?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Clasby?
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Fowler?
Yes, ma'am. All right. Ben, Joe, Corey, thank you so much, as always. You guys do excellent work. I appreciate it. Take a second to allow everyone to leave the chambers, and then we'll go into the regular agenda.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Townsend.
On item 12A, if you don't want to go over it with the county attorney, I think we already know about this. It's already been done by the tax collector. I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve this.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Thank you.
Madam Chair, number 2 was pulled prior to the meeting.
That's correct. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. All right, and commissioner comments? Nope.
No, sorry, you got 2 more items.
Oh,
Planning
shoot,
and
sorry,
zoning
yep,
administrative
sorry.
update. So that would be Ben's up.
Yep.
Administrative update, Ben.
All right. Again, Ben Balser, Planning and Development Services Director for the record. Good morning, Commissioners. This item, 12B1, is the administrative approval update for the month of July, and we have 2 projects to go over. The first is the minor site plan for a company named Rhino Roofs, who have relocated to the property on the east side of Kings Highway, about a half-mile north of St. Lucie Boulevard. In January of 2024, the board approved a rezoning of this property from the AR1 zoning district to the Industrial Light zoning district in order to allow for the proposed use of Rhino Roofs. The minor site plan that was administratively approved allows for the reuse of the existing buildings, the addition of a storage building, and parking, drainage, and landscape improvements for the roofing contractor business. The next is a simple project. It's a minor adjustment to the major site plan for Golden Ponds Mobile Home Park. It's located west of I-95 on Angle Road. The site plan adjustment looked to add 2 pickleball courts for a total of 4,000 square feet of asphalt. The pickleball courts are located adjacent to their existing tennis courts within the mobile home park. And that concludes our administrative approvals for the month of July.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate
you.
it. All right. And then are you taking the next item?
So, thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. So, as everybody is aware, our esteemed county attorney is retiring a week from this coming Friday. So, by rule, the board has to appoint an interim until the selection is made for a permanent county attorney, because that appointment has to be done publicly by the board here, and that way it would give that interim the ability to sign and represent as the attorney. So, we're here for you all to discuss who would you like to name as an interim county attorney.
I pass the gavel to Vice Chair. I make a motion to appoint Assistant County Attorney Catherine Barbieri as interim.
Second.
Chair, before we move it forward with that, I'd like to ask a question. Before we vote on this, I also think that there needs to be a conversation as far as compensation. She is going to be acting in a different capacity, so I think that we do need to give her some financial compensation for the months that she is in that role.
That was going to be my next thing if the board approved it. Yeah, I think whatever the customary increase is, whether that's 3%, 5%, whatever that is, I think that should be extended.
So, Madam Chair, Commissioners, for this type of role, for this thing, on usually director above, it's a 10% interim increase for that level of work, because she's got a lot of work to do on top of her daily work with that. So we would like the board to consider at least a 10% interim increase for temporary while you're on that search.
So if you would include that in your motion.
Okay, so motion to appoint our Assistant County Attorney, Catherine Barbieri, as interim acting county attorney with a 10% increase in pay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
All right, thank you, thank you. Congratulations, Ms. Barbieri. We're so excited for you.
Thank you. I accept. As everybody knows,
You
I'm
notice
not
I didn't
going
give
to
you
be
that
a-
option, I just like, phew, right over. Okay. So with that, now we are finally at the end of the meeting, and are there any commissioner updates or comments? Comments or updates? Seeing none? What? Did you say yes?
No, I have
Okay.
none.
All right, so upcoming meeting, Mr. Landry.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. The Board of County Commissioners will hold a regular meeting on Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025 at 6 p.m. here in these commission chambers. The Board of County Commissioners will also hold a tentative budget hearing on Thursday, September 4th, 2025 at 6 p.m. here in these commission chambers. And the Board of County Commissioners will hold an informal meeting on Tuesday, September 9th, 2025 at 9 a.m. here in these commission chambers, all located at the Roger Portis Administration Annex, 2300 Virginia Avenue, Fort Pierce, Florida. And Eric will handle the remaining two announcements.
St. Lucie County's community swap meet at the John B. Park Sports Complex, Virginia Avenue, returns Saturday, October 11th from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. with additional dates each month through April. This free community swap meet, also known as a yard sale, features dozens of vendors selling a variety of new and used goods, from guitars and jewelry to clothes and sporting equipment. Admission to the swap meet is free. The cost to set up a booth is $20 to those that pre-register. Those who don't pre-register will be required to pay $30 on the day of the yard sale. To rent space, contact the Parks and Rec staff at 772-462-2110. And also mark your calendars now for the one-night free Halloween walkthrough experience hosted by St. Lucie County's Parks and Recreation Department, as well as the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office. Don't miss the Tunnel of Terror Zombie Apocalypse at the Fenn Center on Thursday, October 24th from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Fenn Center, which is located at 2000 Virginia Avenue in Fort Pierce.
Have a good day, everyone. Motion to adjourn.